Hi everyone, welcome back to Visually Hidden Selects. I'm Peter O'Brien, and today I'd like to talk to you about The Outsiders from 1983, directed by Francis Ford Coppola and based on a book by S.E. Hinton. S.E. Hinton stands for Susan Eloise Hinton. She chose to use her initials rather than her given name because she felt she would have a better chance of being published if they didn't know that she was a woman, especially since the subject of the story revolves around young men. The book and the film follow the story of a young group of men known as greasers. They are basically the poor kids in their community. They live on the wrong side of the tracks. They have none of the luck, all of the tough breaks, but they have each other. They are constantly antagonized by another group of kids from the other side of the tracks, the socias or socialites. They are the rich kids, they are the wealthy kids, they get all the breaks, they have all the luck, and they constantly come over into the greasers' territory to antagonize them, pick fights, and ultimately it catches up with them in a bad way. S.E. Hinton began writing this novel at the age of 15, and it was published when she was 17 years old. It kind of follows some of the things that she was witnessing and experiencing in her life, even though she is a woman, and the story is based around young men. Coppola became involved in the film when a group of junior high students sent him a letter and a copy of the book asking him to please make an adaptation of it. They felt he was the best filmmaker for the job, and he took a look at the material and became excited and therefore got involved. The film is a very faithful adaptation of the novel and source material, partly because Francis Ford Coppola, he kind of believes that if he's adapting a book, it's the work of the author and he feels obligated to honor it as close as possible. S.E. Hinton, the author, was actually involved in the production and she was present on the set while they were filming it. The film was shot on location in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where S.E. Hinton grew up. And so a lot of the locations that are present in the film were actually the inspiration for the locations in the book. All of this adds a layer of authenticity to the film that would not otherwise be achieved if it was shot in a studio or in another location in Hollywood. It's one of the things that Tulsa is actually known for, is the filming of this particular movie. They went so far as to rename the street where the Curtis Brothers house is, and you can actually go visit the Curtis Brothers house. It's a museum in Tulsa, Oklahoma. When the film was first released, a lot of people were disappointed that it did not exactly showcase some of the key scenes present in the book. That's not to say that they were not filmed. Francis Ford Coppola did film the entire novel. When it came time to release it, the studio intervened and decided to cut it down to just make it a little bit more accessible and a little bit more digestible for audiences. However, the audience of the book was a little disappointed. In 2005, Francis Ford Coppola went back and restored approximately 22 minutes of footage to the film and released it as the complete novel version. It is slightly different insofar as it has an expanded opening, a few smaller scenes sprinkled throughout, and a slightly different ending, and it follows the narrative of the book a lot more closely. One of the key differences, aside from the additional footage between the theatrical version and the complete novel version, is the music. Personally, I really liked the score present in the theatrical version. It was composed by Carmine Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's father, and it's still there in the complete novel. However, he swapped parts of it out and replaced them with some period-accurate rock and roll songs to better illustrate the greasers and their lifestyle. I feel that the film has a stronger dramatic effect with the original score, and the absence of the score reduces the dramatic punch of the film. Francis Ford Coppola is of course known for making some of the greatest films in cinema history: The Godfather, Godfather Part 2, Apocalypse Now, The Conversation. This film is really kind of a smaller scale production. However, if you think about it, a lot of his films really are focused on a small, intimate group of people, and he's usually telling a very simple, straightforward story. It's not so much about the setting as it is about the story being told and the characters and their relationships, and that's kind of one of his chief strengths as a filmmaker and as a storyteller. One of the most significant things about this film is the cast. There are so many young actors in this film. This film was made again in 1983, so it predates most of their careers. It is, if not their first feature film, it is their first theatrical film. C. Thomas Howell, who plays Ponyboy Curtis, the main character and narrator of the film, 1 year prior to this, he was in E.T. He followed up his performance in The Outsiders with a role in Red Dawn, alongside Patrick Swayze, who plays his older brother in The Outsiders. Patrick Swayze, of course, went on to star in the immortal Dirty Dancing, Ghost, and my personal favorite, Point Break. This was also a year before Ralph Macchio became the Karate Kid, and it was a couple of years before Emilio Estevez appeared in The Breakfast Club. And it was later this same year that Tom Cruise starred in Risky Business and All the Right Moves. Matt Dillon is the only one who had a really strong filmography heading into this film. He started out in 1979 in Over the Edge and basically played tough teens throughout his early career, culminating with Dallas Winston in The Outsiders. This is really a standout performance for him, as he is sort of the secondary or tertiary main character along with C. Thomas Howell and Ralph Macchio. Diane Lane plays Cherry Valance in this film, kind of the only real female character with any real substance in the film who sympathizes and befriends Ponyboy. She's sort of a liaison between the Greasers and the Socs, and she just really holds her own in a film full of young men. The novel was first published in 1967, and as a result, S.E. Hinton is kind of credited with beginning the young adult genre of fiction. I first encountered this book in junior high when I was in 7th grade. It was required reading, and I really kind of zeroed in on the themes of the story and of the, social commentary within the story. It really reminded me a lot of my own situation growing up and my own community growing up. I think the character that I relate to the most is probably Ponyboy, simply because he is the youngest, and growing up I was always the youngest. I was the youngest of my friends, I was the youngest of my siblings, and so I kind of relate to Ponyboy. And in being the youngest, you're usually watching all the people around you because you're learning from them. I would love to say that I relate to Dally, the outlaw, but that's just not the case. You see people like that and you see the path their decisions take them down, and it's not such a nice path, so you kind of try to avoid it. So that's it for The Outsiders. I really hope you enjoy this recommendation, and again, if you haven't already, check out the book, and be sure to tune in to the Visually Hidden podcast, where we will be discussing this film at length. Until next time, see ya.